How many of you have felt a little bit like an unschooling hypocrite, or maybe like a home education imposter? You have found yourself at some kind of gathering and you've made excuses for yourself, like, oh, we're kind of unschoolers, but we also do a little bit of, or maybe keeping parts of what you do under wraps, or staying silent when the topic of worksheets or bedtime, something else shows up. I'm going to guess that quite a number of you have felt a little bit like a hypocrite or an imposter at some time in your home education journey. For some of you, it's possibly quite a pervasive feeling. I've got some really important things that I want to share all about this. Number one, we exist in the cult of not enoughness. The cult of not enoughness is a term I first heard from Richard Rohr. The cult of not enoughness describes modern society and how it is kind of designed to make you feel like you're not enough or you don't have enough, that you'll only be happy and fulfilled if you have a better job or a bigger house, more success, or even these days I would say more healing, that only more of something is going to make you feel fully human or whole. And this cult of not enoughness can very much creep into our family life and our home educating lives when we become apologists for ourselves, saying, sorry, I'm not fully unschooling, or just really labour under this idea that we aren't enough. So it can be really common, and if this is undermining your ability to make connections with people or find community or feel at peace with your decision, I really want to invite you into some practice of self-kindness, of speaking kindly to yourself. Interestingly, recently in my unschooling membership circle, we did a little show of hands around people who turn up to places and feel like the odd one out or the kind of bit of a weirdo. And it was like 95% of people felt like they were the weirdo in the group. I'm not saying you're not special, you are special, obviously. But this feeling like we don't fit in is such a common feeling in home ed circles. And I want to invite you to reflect on this as you go to make friends or as you enter unschooling spaces or home ed groups, to sort of have this kind of open heart to the idea that everyone is kind of feeling a little bit like they're not enough or a little bit like they're the odd one out. Imagine if we went there with this lens on and were able to just create such welcoming, beautiful, inclusive spaces where you could allow yourself to be fully seen and, fully embraced. But the other thing here is, like so many things, imposter syndrome or feeling like a hypocrite isn't necessarily 100% bad. Sometimes it's just a thing. It's just a natural consequence of having big vision for yourself and big vision for your life and your family life and your children, but not being quite there yet. And so sometimes that feeling is a little bit more of a nudge to keep your eyes on the vision in your heart. Does that make sense? I really think that anybody with a big vision for how one could live so often can feel like a bit of a hypocrite. I've noticed it in lots of other activist circles, in sort of eco circles, climate change circles, feminist circles, that feeling that you want to really embody all of your values, but it's actually really hard. The practice of embodying all of your principles is harder than you think, especially when you're doing it in a society that doesn't value those values. So there's a gap between where you want to be and where you are right now. And just to develop that thought a bit more, it's only a gap if you're on a linear journey. It's only a gap if you're thinking you're here and you're striving to get here. And what if we saw our home education lives, or everything, more as kind of seasonal cycles? Knowing that right now you're taking a turn around all the seasons as this current version of yourself and your home education, knowing each season that you go through, each year that passes, you're bringing in more depth, more riches, more equipment, like mental equipment or heart equipment, to practice the principles that you believe to be right and true for you. So it's knowing that this person and this vision already exists within you, this dream of your life, as say your ambition is to be like radical unschoolers. This exists within you, and you are acknowledging that every day that you're really practicing is a day that you're becoming more of that. So yeah, depending on whether that feeling of hypocrisy or or imposter syndrome is really dragging you down, if that is the case, I invite you into a practice of more self-love, and also changing up some thought patterns that you've embedded over years and years, a habit of speaking about yourself as not enough. And in doing this, rejecting the cult of not enoughness that is creeping in to your home educating lives. But then on the other hand, you might be sitting here and knowing that it's just a gentle nudge. It's a gentle nudge saying, and you don't have to worry about it. It's just a feeling of knowing that there is a lot more potential within you that is unfolding every season of home educating that you're going through. So yeah, that was just some encouraging words for you today, I hope. We're in the final days of registration for Disco, the 5-week unschooling course. This is a beautiful course I've been running for 3 years now. We've had over 600 people come through. It's very, very practical, but it is very much about the principles of unschooling, and very much about looking at the inherited beliefs that stop us from really dropping into flow and joy and trust with our children. So there's a couple more days to register. You can click the link below for more info about that. Next week I have an amazing conversation happening with Sari and Becca from Radical Learning. We touch on so many things, from Waldorf to adultism to curriculum to unschooling in groups to conflict and boundaries. It is the best conversation. So hit subscribe to make sure you get a little notification about that in your inbox. I'd love to hear from you. As always, take care.